All right, hi everybody. I'd like to welcome you to our LionSide Chat today. Go ahead and make sure your audio devices are all set up and we will get started shortly. Don't forget to also check out some of our previous and upcoming LionSide Chats on our website. And our web address and our email address are also presented on the screen right now. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today and welcome to Penn State Berks LionSide Chats. Come on in and welcome to our campus. We're so glad that you could join us. My name is Sonia Delaquito, and I'm one of 3 LionSide Chat moderators working alongside Professor Dawn Pfeiffer-Wrights and Dr. Ryan Hassler. Before we get started, we wanted to show that you should please feel free to submit questions throughout the program via the Q&A feature. We're not going to be utilizing the raise hand feature during today's presentation. But once the presentation concludes, we are going to facilitate a discussion with our session facilitators. And we're also going to be recording today's session. So if you have to head out early, you can always revisit the topic or even share this experience with friends and family. So audience members, did you utilize the alternative grade process in semesters past? Are you considering using it again? Depending on your academic and financial situation, that could be a mistake. Alternative grades were designed with the best interests of students in mind, but students may not be aware of the long-term impact and consequences of the choices that you make. So today we are here with the academic advising and financial aid staff of Berks, who are going to explore the ins and outs of alternative grades and how they can impact your future at Berks and beyond. Paula and Nettie, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having us, Sonia. We are excited to be here. My name is Paula Plagman. I'm coordinator of academic advising at Berks, and I will be co-presenting today with Nettie Matz, the coordinator of the assistant director of financial aid. Nettie, do you want to say hello?
Hi, everybody. I am here. I turned my screen off because I'm not driving. My husband is driving and the internet was going in and out. So I am here. When we do stop, I'll turn my screen back on. But I am here. Hi.
Okay, and with that, we are going to get started. So alternative grading, what is it and how does it work? Once grades are posted, once you get a final grade in your class, all students are going to have the option to go in and choose alternative grading for one or more classes. You can use it for whatever you want to. In a nutshell, the alternative grades are, if you earn a C or higher, you can choose to have a satisfactory or an SAT. If you earn a D, you would choose a V. And if you earned an F, you would choose a Z. The reason for doing this is that it protects your grade point average. When you use an alternative grade, for instance, for a D or an F, those points will not negatively impact your grade point average. In other words, only the grades, the letter grades are going to impact that. Now, one thing to keep in mind from a financial aid perspective is if you do earn an F, even if you take a Z, which is protecting you academically, it's not going to protect you from financial aid eligibility. Okay? So we are recommending that if you earn a D or an F in a course, that it makes a lot of sense to use alternative grading because you are protecting your grade point average. But for those students who earned a C or higher, we are cautioning you about using an SAT or the alternative grade. And the reason for that, there's several reasons for that. But you really need to be aware of numerous things as you're thinking through this. So really using it as a tool to help your grade point average with those Ds and the Fs is kind of what it was designed to help you do. Something that's really important. Something that's really important for everyone to keep in mind is that there's a small window of time that students will be able to enter their alternative grades. So the semester will end. April 30th is the last day of classes, and then finals is the first week of May. Then final grades will be posted by all the instructors. Then the alternative grading window opens. It opens on May 12th and will remain open until May 21st. That is the only time that you can go in and make these changes. So on those dates, you'll be able to go into your LionPath Student Center page, go to your grades section, and you'll see a hyperlink for alternative grades. There's actually a calculator there where you will be able to see if you take an alternative grade, what it will do to your grade point average. Okay, I'm going to change the screen. Nettie, do you have anything to add so far?
Yeah, if you want to go back there to the
Okay,
first screen. Sorry. The second one there, we're saying alternative grades don't impact your grade point average. That is true. So if you have an F, you might as well take the Z because it's not going to affect your GPA. But whether you have an F or a Z, it's still going to affect your completion rate. When we're talking about your federal aid, your loans, your Pell Grant, your work study plus loans, it's still going to affect your completion rate. You have to pass 67% of the credits that you've attempted. So whether you're going to have the F or the Z, you might as well take the Z because you want to protect your GPA, but it is going to affect your completion rate. Okay. Go ahead, Paula.
Okay, thanks, Nettie.
Mhm.
Okay, so what are some downsides of using alternative grades? First, alternative grades do not count towards the credit window. So if you are working towards a major that is administratively enrollment controlled, and those majors have credit windows that students have to apply in. So when you use alternative grades, those credits do not get applied to the cumulative grade point average. So if you are working towards an administratively enrollment controlled major and you are using alternative grades, it could impact when you're going to be eligible to apply to get into your major. Okay, so that's one thing you really need to be aware of. Another thing to keep in mind with, again, with the administratively enrollment controlled majors, there are some entrance to major requirement courses that you may not use alternative grading for. Okay. So that list is located down here in the bottom box on the right-hand side. There's a box that says keeplearning.psu.edu. That has everything you need to know about alternative grades. And I do have a list on the next PowerPoint slide. So if you want to get your cameras ready to take a picture, if this is going to impact you, you can do that as well. Okay, another downside of using alternative grades is that many institutions of higher education are no longer using alternative grades. So many schools did use them during spring of 2020 when COVID-19 first hit. But Penn State is one of the few schools that is continuing to do that through this virtual environment. But because of that, we do not know how outside institutions or even employers and industry would view alternative grades. This is the main reason that we are encouraging you that if you have a C or higher, to go ahead and keep those letter grades, because we just don't know how they are going to be perceived by others, and we don't want you to be negatively impacted down the road and with your future. Okay. Continuing to the right, students considering higher education should limit their use of alternative grades for that very reason that I just talked about. Okay, I'm going down into the second row now of things that you should be aware of. And you do need to know that once you have submitted alternative grades, that's what's going to show on your transcript. The only way to change that back, if you would need to do that at some point in your future, is through a faculty senate petition. So this is really something to be careful about and to be educated about before you hit that submit button. Also, going to the next box, you still need to follow the financial aid guidelines to make academic progress. So again, the big thing there is the F's and the Z's, because the F's do not help you make academic progress and neither do the Z's. Okay.
Paula.
Yes, go ahead, Nettie.
Sorry. And with that one too, if you are going to take the alternative grades, anything that is not a Z does count toward completion rate. You did pass the class. So we're looking at financial aid here. So yes, you did pass the class. Yes, that does count towards completion. So I know Paula's talking about you needing this to get into some majors and things like that, but just financial aid wise, it does count as passing the class. It does count towards some of you who have FIA. It does count towards passing those classes, because for FIA, you need to have passed 24 credits in a year if you're full-time, 12 credits in a year if you're part-time. It's the F and Z's that are the ones that are going to catch you when you're doing alternative grades.
Okay, thank you, Nettie. And again, I'm just going to point out keeplearning.psu.edu. I cannot stress that enough. I want to make sure that you understand the rules before you make a commitment. Okay, so here is the list of entrance to major courses that you cannot use alternative grading for. So if you are going into or going to be applying to advertising and public relations in the College of Communication, just English 15 or 30. For our administratively enrollment controlled majors in the College of Engineering, is Math 141 is the only one of the entrance to major courses. Okay. So if you're in the College of IST, all entrance to major courses based on your majors. So whether you are looking at IST, cybersecurity, security and risk analysis, any majors within the College of IST, those courses all require a letter grade. Okay. For any SMEAL-bound majors or College of Business, you may not use alternative grading for Accounting 211, Finance 301, Management 301, or Marketing 301. And again, all of this information is available at keeplearning.psu.edu. So we wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about late drops and withdrawals because it's a little bit different when you have the opportunity to use alternative grading. So the late drop deadline is this Friday, April the 9th. Late drop is when you drop one or more courses. When you do that, it's going to show up as a late drop on your transcript. You have until 11:59 p.m. to do that. And you do that using LionPath. You go into LionPath, click on the enrollment button, and then on the left-hand side, you'll see drop class, and that's how you can drop one or more classes. You cannot drop all of your classes. That would be a withdrawal. A withdrawal is when you withdraw from all of your courses from the entire semester. You're actually withdrawing from the university. The last day to withdraw is the last day of classes, which is April the 30th this spring. Withdrawing requires a form. It must be received by the registrar's office at University Park by 5:00 p.m. on that last day. So if this is something you're thinking about doing, I encourage you not to wait until the last minute. Another thing to keep in mind with withdrawal is that if you do withdraw from the university, you will then have to re-enroll, which is another form, in order to be able to become an active student again. Nettie, do you want to jump in here with late drops and withdrawals?
Yeah. Basically with a late drop, let me connect that with the alternative grade. A late drop and a Z are basically the same thing in financial aid. It's not going to affect your GPA, but a late drop is going to affect your completion rate. That seems to be the theme here. It's your completion rate. The late drop is going to affect it doesn't matter when you dropped the class. If you dropped it the second week of classes or you drop it this week, it's going to affect your completion rate. If you drop the class during the first week of classes, it's not a late drop. It doesn't count. Late drops or second week until this week. A withdrawal completely from the semester will affect your financial aid. That's withdrawing from the entire semester. So that is a 0% completion rate from the entire semester. It depends on if this is your first semester here or however many credits however many credits you've completed in previously, it could bring you down below the 67%. We just have to look at every student individually for that. So late drops, again, are like a Z grade. Withdrawals are, either way, we have to look at students individually for all of this.
Thank you, Nettie.
Yep.
So what I'd like to share is with late drops, they are not going to impact your grade point average. But since we have alternative grading, you actually have more options than sometimes other students do. If there's the possibility that you can pass this class, you may want to consider keeping it instead of late dropping it. Because if you're taking a class that requires a C or higher and you're just not sure if you're going to make it or not, you should keep it, because if you don't earn that C, you can take that alternative grade. Let's say you get a D, you can take the alternative grade, a V, and it's not going to impact your grade point average, and you'd still have to retake the course anyway. Now, if you're in a position where no matter what you do, you're going to fail it, and if being in that course is taking time away from doing well in your other courses, or allowing you to prepare more fully for your other courses and be stronger with them, then maybe it does make sense to late drop it rather than keep it for alternative grades. That's going to be an individual decision, and I would encourage you to speak with your academic advisor about that. And Nettie did talk about late drops and withdrawals do affect financial aid eligibility, again, because of completion rates. So it's always a good idea to check with financial aid. Anything else, Nettie? Okay. All right, so now we're going to talk about a couple of case studies. And I do want to preface this by saying, Nettie said each case is so individual. And so we would encourage you, as you are thinking about and planning what you want to do, we do encourage you to meet with your academic advisor, to talk with financial aid before you make any decisions. All right, so we're going to start with a student that chooses all SAT scores. And Nettie, did you want to start?
Yeah. If you choose all SAT scores, there's nothing really that's going to affect you for financial aid. You passed all the classes. You're fine. The only issue that I see personally, you have no GPA. Scholarship wise, because I do scholarships here at the Berks campus, you have no GPA. So when I go to do scholarships, I can't see a GPA, especially if you're a first year student. There's no GPA there. That's going to cause issues when me or University Park or the college that your major falls under goes to award scholarships. We can't see a GPA. But if you really need to do those alternative grades, it's got to be an academic decision. It cannot be a financial aid decision. Okay. But as far as federal aid, state aid, it is not going to affect you to take those grades.
Okay, and what I would like to add from an academic perspective, from an advising perspective with SAT scores, again, we talked about the fact that it could impact your eligibility as you are trying to get into your major, because those credits are not counting towards your cumulative grade point average. We also don't know how outside institutions, both institutions of higher education and industry, are going to view those SAT grades. And remember, the SAT grades, you have to earn at least a C, but it can be higher. And again, we really are recommending that students keep the letter grade for anything that is C or higher. And letter grades tend to be a truer reflection of the work that students do in courses, which is why that is a measure that many people have used. So that would be a reason to not choose all SAT scores. Okay, let's move on to case study number 2.
Okay, for financial aid, if the combination is SAT grades and regular grades, again, what I said for all SAT scores, but if some of these are Z grades, I wrote down some students. Obviously, we're not giving names or ID numbers here, but we have some students who took some combinations of these scores. We have students who have, again, for me, the GPA is not going to be the issue for any of these. It's completion rate. We have some students who, over the years, we have like a 3rd-year student who did not pass or late dropped classes throughout the years. And because he took a combination of all of these grades, he actually is not going to have a passing rate above a 67%. But we have another student who, same thing, but only ever dropped 1 course and he'll be fine. So again, for financial aid purposes, it's all over the place and something that you need to see us for when you're doing these. But I go back to, I mean, I'm going to say this with the Z score case. If it's an F, you might as well take the Z because it's going to save your GPA.
Okay, thank you, Nettie. So the notes that I would like to add for case number 2 is, again, if you are heading towards an administratively enrollment controlled major, these alternative grades can impact you from a credit perspective and also from a grade perspective. So be aware of that. Also, I'd like to think about this from an academic perspective. When you use letter grades, so you're going to use this calculator to choose which alternative grades you want to use. When you do use that calculator, it's going to show you like what your semester grade point average is going to be and what your cumulative grade point average is going to be if you take those grades. Now, I know, let's say, for instance, you get 4 Bs and 1 A. You're like, oh, but if I take satisfactory for all the Bs, then I'm going to have a 4.0 average for the semester. That's true, but that grade is only going to be based on that 1 class, either 3 or 4 credits. So in the end, when you have a cumulative grade point average, it's based on all of the grades that you have earned through your entire college career. That impact is going to be very, very small. So in a situation where you've got 4 Bs and an A, or even a couple of Cs, just keep the letter grades, because that's going to help you have a more accurate cumulative grade point average at the end. Okay.
I'm gonna add on to that, Paula.
Yep.
When she's talking about that too, in scholarship awarding, I've seen a lot of students who took all SAT grades and maybe a V or a Z and kept the 1A for their FYS class and had a 4.0. I can't give you a scholarship for a 4.0 in a 1 credit class. So you need to be aware of that as well. So you can't expect to have a scholarship because you have a 4.0 for a 1 credit class, or expect anybody to give you a scholarship for something like that. Yes, you have a 4.0, but you also have to keep in mind that it's a 1 credit class or a 3 credit class, like Paula is talking about. It doesn't bear as much weight as you having a 4.0 for 17, 15 credits in a full semester. I'd rather see students with, all the credits there, and have a couple of B's and C's and have a decent GPA, than the student who took all of their credits off with alternative grades to try to have that 4.0 with just a 1 credit 4.0.
It also does impact your eligibility to make Dean's List. You do have to have full-time credits and have grades for full-time credits. So it's also not a way that you could get onto Dean's List if you're not carrying a full credit with the letter grades. Okay, and with that, Nettie, let's move on to case study number 3.
Okay, this is obviously the one that affects financially the most, but again, it would not matter if you had an F or a Z. I'm going to keep saying that if you have all Fs, take all Zs because it's going to save your GPA. It's going to affect your completion rate. Just a couple students that we looked at, one student who took all Z grades in the fall semester, you have a 0% completion rate. Even if you pass all the credits in the spring semester, you're going to be at a 50% completion rate, which is not enough to get your federal aid in the spring semester. That's not enough to get your FIA credit, your FIA state grant back in the fall semester either. Or the student who took all Z grades in the fall and is not coming back in the spring, you have a 0% completion rate. Both of those type of students, you can do an appeal for your federal aid. You can do an appeal for FIA as well. We don't deal with the appeals for FIA. That goes straight through the state. We do the appeals for federal aid. That goes up to the Office of Student Aid, though. We send everything up there. However, just because you do an appeal does not mean it's going to get approved. We can send them up to University Park. The appeal means that you're appealing as to why you got all Fs, because the Zs are Fs. So you're appealing your aid as to why you didn't do so well and why you want your aid back for the fall. If you don't get approved, there are alternative loans that you can take out. Now, not all the alternative loans will lend to students that are not meeting. It's called satisfactory academic progress. That's what we're talking about with the completion rate. You have to have a 2.0 GPA, which is why I'm telling you to take the Zs. And you have to pass 67% of the credits you attempted, which is the completion rate I'm talking about. So not all alternative loans will lend to students that don't meet satisfactory academic progress, but there are ones out there. You would have to look and see which ones do take them. But that is only if your appeal does not get approved. But remember, they don't always get approved. But then we look at students, those are first year students, but we have students that are upper level students who may have never dropped a class or failed a class, and then they take all Zs in a semester and are completely fine because they passed all their classes before and they're above the 67%. Or we have a student who failed a couple classes, dropped a couple classes throughout their entire time and will be below the 67% because they didn't pass enough. So again, all of this, you have to come see financial aid to see how this is going to affect you. But regardless, like I keep saying, whether you have an F or a Z, it's still going to affect your financial aid. So you might as well take the Z to save your GPA.
Thank you, Nettie. So the only thing that I would add is that if you do choose all Zs, although it will protect your grade point average, you will not be earning any credits for the semester. Now, if you have Fs, you're not going to have any credits anyway, but it's a whole semester with no credits. Also, if you do have a cumulative grade point average and you would use all Zs, your cumulative grade point average will remain what it was prior to this semester. Okay.
Oh, there's one thing I did forget.
Sure.
This kind of has to go with it, but if a student wants to repeat a class, one that they took a Z for, and you do have a FIA state grant, FIA will not pay for you to take that class a second time. So if you're going to take it again in the fall semester, you need to take 12 credits plus that class for FIA to give you the full state grant. Again, that's kind of an individual thing. So if you have questions on that, please see us.
Mhm.
Okay.
And the other add-on to that, Nettie, is that if students earned a D and took a V and they needed a C or higher and need to repeat the course, that's the same rule.
That is correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So take it away, Nettie.
Okay, here goes my soapbox. With the alternative grades, honestly, this confused me. When we first started for this, a lot of people are asking, especially with those students who have provost awards and discover awards, not necessarily students that have scholarships from our campus, because I can tell you that because I've been doing these scholarships for a while. But students who have scholarships from other campus, from University Park, they want to know if they're going to have their scholarship. Basically, if you have anything other than a Z grade, you have to pass a certain amount of credits for the scholarship that you have. As long as you've passed the credit window that they told you were going to have, you can have the scholarship back. And actually, I pulled this directly off the Keep Learning website. This is, I literally copied and pasted this on here. So this is word for word what is on Keep Learning. So as long as you have the GPA that you were supposed to have, the students, I'm going to read this. For any student who has a 0, that's cumulative GPA at the end of spring 2021, the scholarship will not be renewed. So this is going to go with Paula in saying that if you're going to take all SAT grades and you have one of those scholarships, just because you had the C's, you might want to keep them, because I believe, I'm almost 100% sure that the Discover and Provost are 2.0s. I'm like 99.9% sure off the top of my head that they're both 2.0s, and a C is a 2.0. Okay. But when you take the SAT grades, that does count as passing grades for scholarships. Okay. So when you have these scholarships, please don't be afraid to ask us, am I going to be able to keep them? We will be truthful with you. I have figured it out. Finally, I understand what's going on with these scholarships. I did have to read it myself a couple times. So please ask us, and I will let you know whether you will be able to keep your scholarship for next year or not. And like I said, like Paula said, if you want to take a screenshot of this, go ahead. But this is on the Keep Learning website. But if you do have one of those that were a recruiting scholarship from University Park, the Provost or the Discover, make sure you don't take all SAT grades, because you will lose it, because you cannot have a no GPA. That is my spiel on this one.
Okay, so where can I learn more? keeplearning.psu.edu. That in big and bold and bright colors. There's a lot of specific information. They even have some testimonials from students kind of talking about their stories and about why they have chosen to use alternative grading or why they have chosen not to. So those are located at that Keep Learning website. And again, like Nettie has said numerous times throughout this presentation, each situation is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be dependent upon how long you have been a student with us, how many credits you have taken before this, and exactly kind of what your situation is, and also what your financial aid situation is. So please talk with an advisor and also talk with financial aid before you make a decision, about what's going to be best for you. We can help guide you with this.
Yeah, if you haven't taken anything away from any of this, if you don't remember anything, the one thing to remember is just reach out to us, because that is the most important. Everybody is different. No one person, no two people are going to be the same in this. So please reach out to us if you're worried about taking these grades and how it's going to affect you.
Okay. So we are ready to take questions now. I have our contact information posted. Please, do a screenshot if you need to. But other than that, we are ready to take questions.
Great. Thank you so much to Dr. Plagman and to Mrs. Matz for sharing all of that information. We do have a couple of questions in the Q&A that I'm going to share now. I have a couple of questions of my own, and I would like to invite the audience to continue to submit them throughout the presentation. For Nettie, can you please repeat the number of credits attempted that students need to pass? Our audience member thought they heard 68%. Can you share with us again what that number is? Nettie, are you there?
Oh.
Right, there she is.
Sorry.
That's all right.
I did video and not audio.
It's all right.
I work this thing. It is 67% and there is no rounding. So if you are at 67.9%, it is 67%.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that clarification.
Yep.
Another one of the questions that popped into our feed was, can you do alternative grading for previous semesters, such as spring 2020?
No, the only time that you can do alternative grading is during the window when it is open. So the window for spring is May 12th to the 21st, and that's it.
If a student, Paula, would want to pursue an alternative to change their grades from prior semesters, is there a process for that?
Yes, the student could do a faculty senate petition, and the contact person for that, this would be actually it would be Karen Delvecchio in the advising office. If you want to change from letter grades to alternative grades, you would have to contact Karen Delvecchio in advising. If you are interested in changing from alternative grades back to letter grades, then the contact person for that is our campus registrar, Elise Kaplan.
Great, thank you. Okay, we got some really good questions coming in here. This one might have to do with the time machine. If I elected alternative grades last semester, can I get them reversed?
That would require a faculty senate petition, and that would be through our campus registrar, Elise Kaplan.
Okay.
So
all right.
I can give you Elise's email. Yes. E as in elephant, M as in Mary, L as in Logan, the number 10 at psu.edu.
And I am adding that to our Q&A chat, so you should be able to see that, everybody. Okay. Next question is, can I use alternative grading on all classes? If a student uses an alternative grade on entrance to major, how bad will that impact us?
If you use an alternative grade for a course that you are not allowed to use alternative grade for, you will not be eligible to get into the major. You will be denied entrance into the major. So you would need a letter grade for that. As long as you meet the entrance to major criteria and you are in the credit window, as long as you have the appropriate cumulative credits, again, alternative grade credits will not count towards that number. So you need to be very aware of, are you entering and trying to enter an administratively controlled major? Do you have a credit window? And are there specific classes in that major that may not use alternative grading for? So that's a good question. Make sure you are educating yourself at Keep Learning, and also talk with your advisor.
Sandy, did you have anything you wanted to add, or are you good? Good, okay, all right, excellent. Okay, so one of the questions that I was sitting here thinking about was, We mentioned the options. If for a student who doesn't or isn't making satisfactory academic progress, but they still want to attend college, Nettie, I know that you mentioned the alternative loans, but for people who don't have that as an option, what are some things that students can still do if they want to be in college, even though they're not making progress?
You mean to pay
Yeah.
their FIA is also different. They don't follow federal guidelines, so you may be eligible for FIA. Now, not every Pennsylvania resident is eligible for FIA. Pay out of pocket.
Okay.
There is an installment. Yeah, there's an installment plan. It breaks the semester bill into 4. The bills would be due, like for fall semester, it's August 22nd, September 22nd, October 22nd, November 22nd, and it's $45 installment plan fee. So that's due on the first one. But some students just take less classes because it's expensive. We know this. So they'll take less classes. So if you wanted to do the installment plan, it's the same thing no matter how many classes you're taking. So just taking less credits at a time. But you do have to get back to the 67%. I realized I said 67.9 when I was telling you before. I meant 66.9. But anyway, it doesn't matter how many credits you're taking for the installment plan. So you can do that. But that would be the only way to do that.
There's still pathways. It's just maybe not as seamless as traditional.
Exactly.
Great. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Another question just came in from our audience. Do alternative, and in parentheses it says SAT grades count towards your gen ed credits?
Yes, they do.
Okay. And I would, again, I'll just put one more call out there for questions. But in the meantime, I thought I would ask our sessions presenters, every transcript tells a story, right? So what are some words of advice to offer students from each of your respective areas as far as what they want their story to tell? Paula, we'll go with you first and then Nettie.
Okay. Thank you, Sonia. And that's a really good question, because as you are moving forward in your careers and whatever direction you're moving towards, once you leave Penn State, it's going to be important to recognize what your transcript is saying. Providing a transcript is going to be probably an important part of your future. And so looking at it from an academic perspective and being able to talk about it and kind of talk through it is going to be important for you. You're going to want to give thought to it so that as you are presenting yourself, you can be talking about what was going on, during those times, and what you learned from it and what you took from it and how it made you, stronger, so that it is coming from a place of strength. Again, that's why we are cautioning the use of alternative grading. Use it. D's and F's, use it. Say, you know what, I was doing that to protect my grade point average, but those C's, I think you've learned a lot today that really can have an impact on you. So you may just want to keep those because then it's going to show what you were doing and how you were doing. That's what I would say academically. Nettie?
I think you kind of took the words out of my mouth. Financial aid wise, I keep saying it. None of the SAT grades are really going to affect you, but if you have an F, take a Z grade because it's going to affect you either way. But you have this. I almost want to call it a gift. I mean, in what's going on right now, this is kind of almost a gift. You have it. It's going to save your GPA. Take it because it's going to affect your financial aid either way. So you have half that can be saved. You have these two things in your financial aid. You have to have a 2.0 and you have to have the 67% that you have to pass. So you might as well have one that can be saved, your GPA. So you might as well take it.
Great. Thank you both so much. We actually have a couple more questions that came in. What happens if you can't reach 67%? Would it be savable in any way?
It's got to be there mathematically in my math brain, because I am a math major. It has to be. It's somehow, once you keep passing classes every semester at 100%, it will eventually get back up there.
So I guess the tricky part is that if you're not making progress, if you're not making academic progress, and if you do not get your financial aid, you're going to have to continue to earn credits, but you're going to have to be paying for those credits, either out of pocket or with alternative loans.
Yes. The other thing is, I hate to say this, but when you're looking at just completion rate, the completion rate part of it does not have to be Penn State credits. So if you can get them at a community college at a cheaper rate and make sure they transfer back in as actual credits that will help you complete your degree, you can do that as well.
Great, thank you. There's a couple more questions in here. What meeting modalities are offered to students who want to meet with financial aid and or advising to review their specific situation?
For financial aid right now, it's just Zoom and phone.
Yep. And advising, you can meet, every student has assigned academic advisor, or you can also meet with an advisor from the advising center office. So you can call to make an appointment, or reach out on our listserv, but it's best to call. And if you call, leave a message, and we will get back to you and get an appointment scheduled.
Paula, do you have the advising line for phone calls? What that phone number is? Okay.
610-396-6280.
6280. Okay, thank you. That actually kind of covered another question that had come in. Can I talk about my concerns about alternative grades with my assigned advisor, or do you recommend that I contact the DUS Advising Center? Paula, can you share the process? Like, should they be reaching out to somebody first, preferentially, or just come right to you?
We do recommend that you meet with your assigned advisor, but if either of you have questions after that meeting, you are more than welcome to then contact the advising center, and we will be happy to work with you as well.
Excellent. And one, it looks like this might be our last one for now. Can I take summer classes to increase my completion rate after spring to keep aid for the next, it says the next summer, but it might be next semester. It might have been what the student meant.
Yes, you can. You can.
Okay. And does something need to be done on the students' end, Nettie? Like, to be like, hey, I took summer class. Yeah.
No. Well, actually, maybe yes, because sometimes just the way the semesters fall, sometimes the Office of Student Aid will run things and it might not catch it right away. So if you don't see the aid that you think you might be eligible for at that point in time, let us know, and we might have to just send a note to University Park to make sure that to run the SAP to see if the student is now eligible for it. Yeah.
Great.
And I'd like to add one note to that. If you are taking classes at a community college over the summer and it is for completion, you are going to have to make sure that your transcript gets submitted immediately upon getting a final grade so that those credits get transferred to Penn State.
Wonderful. Okay, I'm going to give everybody one last second to take a picture of our contact information of our presenters today, and they will make sure that they get back to you to make sure that you're supported in the way that you need. But I would definitely like to thank everybody today for joining us for our session. I would like to thank Dr. Plagman and Mrs. Nettie Matz for joining us. It was reinforced to me that there's pretty much always a catch, right? And alternative grading is no exception to saying that if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So thank you very much. And a special thank you to everybody out in our audience today for joining us for today's LionSide Chat. As you click out of the webinar, you're going to receive access to a survey. Please take a few minutes required to complete the survey to let us know what you thought about today's chat and maybe even offer ideas for future chats. You can always reach out to us via email, and we remind you to keep checking our website as we are always adding new chats. Actually, our next chat is this Wednesday, April 7th at 10 a.m., where we're going to celebrate National Biomechanics Day, a virtual experience with Penn State Berks. So have you ever wondered about what makes your body move? Come on out and find out how muscles apply forces to bones to create movement without even thinking about it. Join us to be a part of the National Biomechanics Day celebrations worldwide, right here through the Penn State Berks LionSide Chat. So stay safe, Berks and beyond. Signing off until next time. This has been the Penn State Berks LionSide Chats. Thank you. Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Nettie, for joining us today.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Have a good day. Thank you.